Hello YouTube, my name is Gauntlet, and today I am starting my Call of War 1.5 Clash of Nations series. My plan for this series is simply to give you, my viewers, a good idea of how I play a 1.5 map, just some of my thought processes, what my priorities are, and some tactics and gameplay as well. Currently we're about 5 hours away from the end of day 1, but I'll go over what my thoughts were throughout this day. So the first thing I did when I logged into this game and I got my country is I checked the resources. Show all provinces, resources. I have 4 rare, 3 oil, 4 metal, 2 goods, and 3 food. So immediately after looking at that, I begin to think, okay, what kind of military can I build with the resources that I have available? And so, to think about that, I have to know, alright, which units require which resources to be built and also to upkeep. And here are some good generalities you can come to conclusions with. Infantry units mostly take food and goods, but as you move down, some of them need oil, one of them needs metal, and a couple need rare. But food and goods, especially food, is really necessary to have an infantry army. And when I look at my resources, I notice my food and goods production is not very strong, so building an infantry-based army is not the best idea for me. The next type of unit are ordnance units. These units also take food and goods, though they take a little bit more goods than food, and they also take some metal. And for SB, self-propelled weapons, they take oil. And when I look at my resources, again, not that many goods, which will severely limit how many ordnance units I build, but I do have some oil, so maybe I can build some SP units, but it wouldn't be worth it to invest in these ground units because I won't be able to build very many of them with my weak goods production. Now let's look at some tanks. So tanks require a lot of metal and a lot of oil. So the lightly armored tanks require oil, metal, and goods. The heavily armored tanks require metal, oil, and rare. And when I look at my resources, metal, oil, and rare, I'm pretty strong in those. So immediately, I'm thinking the backbone of my army is probably going to be made up of these heavily armored units. So medium tanks, heavy tanks, anti destroyers, and I'll probably have some armored cars. Even though these take goods, I'll have them because these will be important tools for spotting, as they're able to expose stealth units at level 3 and higher. And they're fast, so they'll be able to be a good breakthrough unit and take over land quickly. Now that I know my economy will be pretty strong in supporting a large tank force, let's take a look at aircraft. Aircraft all take the same 3 types of resources. They all need goods, oil, and rare. And I'm pretty strong in rare and oil, but not goods. So, although aircraft are extremely important, I have to limit my consumption. So I'm probably, at most, I'll go down 2 of these tech tree lines. I'm thinking about going down tactical bombers and interceptors, but I don't have the goods to support a large, diverse air force, so I can't afford to research all of these because of my low goods production. I'm probably just going to go for tactical bombers and interceptors. Now let's take a look at naval units. So naval units, they all require the same 3 resources: food, metal, and oil. And when I take a look at my resources, I'm pretty decent with food, metal, and oil. So I can support a good navy. And because I don't have the goods to build naval bombers, I have to find another way to get coastal defense because I have a very big coast as Morocco. So I'll probably be focusing on destroyers, maybe some submarines, and if I want to do some shore bombardment, I'll go for battleships. I already built a couple of destroyers for spotting, and I'm going to focus on a decent navy rather than naval bombers because it fits my economy much better. Now let's take a look at secret units. Secret units, the only resource they all have in common to produce and upkeep is rare material. They also in general need metal, but the other one might need oil, they might need goods, or even food for rocket artillery. In my case, I have plenty of rare, so I can afford these, but my priority is to find a replacement for artillery, because I want to spend my goods on aircraft and on infantry. I don't want to have to spend them on artillery. However, artillery is a necessary part of any army in Call of War. So instead of using regular artillery, I'm going to go for rocket artillery, because rocket artillery does not require goods and food, metal, and rare. I have plenty of that. So I'll wait till day 2, research rocket artillery, and start building those at my secret lab to provide my army with artillery support. Now that we've taken a look at all 6 of these types of units, and we've taken a look at the resources of my country, another thing we have to keep in mind when we build our military is our doctrine. And the 2 things I keep in mind when thinking about what my doctrine does is I think about which units will provide strong weapons early for, in my case, the Allied doctrine, and which units will provide strong weapons later on for the Allies. And if you watched my Allies doctrine video, you will know that tactical bomber is a strong tool for the Allies. So that will be something I focus on. Allies also have good destroyers, good tank destroyers, good commandos and paratroopers, and they also have good SP artillery. So if I can, I'll go down the units that my doctrine is strong in. If I can, I would prioritize building your military around your economy more so than your doctrine. And of course, the best case scenario is if your economy and your doctrine line up around the same types of units. And in my case, the main thing holding me back is goods, and unfortunately SP artillery requires a lot of goods, so I probably won't be able to go down SP artillery. Tactical bomber also requires goods, but it doesn't require as many. It mostly requires rare, and I have plenty of rare, so I think I can make up the difference with goods if I have to. Commandos also take goods, but they require a lot more food. So apart from SP artillery, I think I can follow the Allied doctrine pretty well. I think I can build destroyers, I can build tactical bombers, and eventually I can go for commandos, because commandos are pretty strong in 1.5. And the last thing to think about when you're planning out your military on day 1 is the geography of your nation. As Morocco, I have a big coastline, therefore I'm going to need some sort of navy or air force to protect my coastline from enemy amphibious attack. But if I was Communist Russia or the Russian Empire, for example, a navy would be a much smaller priority. Also, as Morocco, I'll probably want to invade Spain, and I'll have to cross this narrow strip of water. And to do that, I'm probably going to need an air force to cover my units as they amphibiously assault. I would need a navy to shore bombard and to garrison my convoys, to guard them so that the HP is spread across all of the units, and so my convoys don't take heavy damage. And I could probably use some paratroopers to drop in, take air bases, and also if they take this province, my units will be able to land in 3 hours rather than 4.5 hours. And also, geography will determine who your enemies are. And so as Morocco, my primary enemy is going to be Algeria, because we have this massive border, and I don't really have any other enemies directly bordering me. It's also important to keep in mind the doctrine of your nearby countries. So Algeria has an allied doctrine, so I know his strengths are the same as my own. As France, with Germany on your border, you probably know he's going to go for tanks and motorized infantry, so you have to think about counters to the strengths of your neighbors. For example, you can start building tank destroyers, you can start building counters to motorized infantry, which I think the best one would be tactical bombers or commandos. And so just keeping all of those things in mind in terms of your enemies, if you have to cross bodies of water, and how doctrine will influence how your enemies produce their military. Do that, and most likely you will hold an advantage over your enemies early on before you even know what they have actually built. And of course, in order to build the units that you want to invade your enemies with, and also to defend yourself against enemy invasions, you have to research those units. And so this is what I've researched so far. It's not very much. I plan to go for rocket artillery and infantry level 2 at day change, which is in 1 hour. And my plan is to go for these heavily armored units eventually, and also probably going to go for battleships for short bombardment. Although researching infantry level 2 will not automatically upgrade all of your infantry. I've seen lots of people not even upgrade their units, which is okay in certain situations, but in general you want to upgrade your units because not only are higher level infantry stronger in terms of damage like they were in 1.0, now they get boosts to HP and to speed. Higher level units are better than their lower level counterparts in all facets. And the big one in Call of War is speed. If your units are faster than your opponents, you can move in and out of artillery range and bombard your enemies and reinforce battles much faster than they will. So please do not underestimate the value of research. At the start of the game, I of course researched infantry level 1 and some other units so I could immediately start building them. And once you have those first hour researches done, it's time to start building. And of course by now you should already have an idea of what your military is going to look like, and so you'll be building these production buildings that correspond with the units that you want. And so I have a secret lab for the rocket artillery, I have a barracks for the infantry and possibly for commandos later on. I have an air base for my tactical bombers, I have a naval base for destroyers and battleships, and I have a tank plant for tanks and my armored cars. And I don't double up these production facilities like some other people do, like this guy has a level 2 barracks and a level 1 tank plant. You can't build infantry and tanks at the same time just because you have these two things. I feel it's a waste to build different production buildings in the same urban province, because you could use those resources elsewhere. You could use them to build industry, you could use them to build infrastructure or air bases or anything else. Don't build different production buildings in the same urban province. And also, don't build the same production building in every single urban province. You need a diverse military to win this game. You can't just build tanks like my ally over here in France has done. And I also wouldn't suggest building level 2 or level 3 production centers in the early game. There's just no point. The production speed is already so fast that you don't need level 2, level 3, especially on day 1. Maybe like day 4, day 6, day 8, yeah, build level 2s and level 3s. But day 1, no. I've already started building industry level 2 on this oil because I'm going to be needing a lot of oil for my ships, planes, and tanks. And depending on your geopolitical situation, you may not want to build level 2 industry or even level 1 industry right away. You might want to start building units really fast. And so there is a strategy of building your military up really fast and fighting early wars. And there's also the strategy that I prefer, which is a slow build up and a slow expansion, which I think fits the Allied doctrine pretty well. Whereas for the Axis doctrine, it'd probably be better to expand quickly by using the advantages of your higher quality units. Like in every Call of War game, you need allies. I happen to join this game with 2 players that are part of my Discord server and are also subscribers to my channel. And so they're going to be helping me out in this game. Here are their names, which they allowed me to share. We have Farmervin as France and Nick 9809890, also known as Stupid Dog. And if we just take a look at them, Farmervin is fighting a big war with UK and Germany, and he's not doing too well because he invaded the UK with his land units and he didn't have any ships to convoy escort his landing craft. And at the same time, Germany attacked him while the majority of his military is over here. So Farmervin is going to have a hard time right now. Meanwhile, we have Nick over here, and he appears to be pushing south while building up. Playing pretty safe. And I'm preparing to take over Western Sahara and Algeria. In general, I would still suggest you attack nearby countries early on, be very aggressive, take over AIs, get their resources, get these urban provinces so you can build more production centers. Prepare attacks on nearby players so you can take all 5 of these urban provinces and you can greatly increase your economy early on. That is my plan currently, to take over Western Sahara and Algeria, and I will show you the results of my endeavors in the coming days and weeks. My hope is to get a coalition win with Farmervin and Nick, and just have a good experience and to teach you, my viewers, just the standard practices of how to play Call of War 1.5. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe, leave a like, and I will see you on the battlefield.